There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
Ready for a full, fun weekend of amazing stories and guests?
I am, yes.
Good. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by journalist and documentarian Jeremy Kenyon Lockyer Corbel. It's a mouthful, Tim. He has a brand new documentary coming out called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers, narrated by Oscar nominee Mickey Rourke and directed by Corbel. He's going to talk to us about this amazing story. And George Knapp from Coast to Coast AM and has been a news broadcaster in Las Vegas for a very long time, broke this story back in 1989. Now, there have been a lot of allegations and strange claims regarding Bob Lazar and his work on Groom Lake at Area 51 and his claims of working on reversed engineered UFOs. But this documentary, which I have to say I was really impressed by, kind of sets the record straight and answers a lot of those questions. So the naysayers, the skeptics, are going to get a lot of the answers they've been begging for all these years, more of a definitive take on the story. So I encourage you to check it out tomorrow on the show. Again, the documentary is coming out, I think, officially on Monday or Tuesday of this coming week. But And I will say this, too. He wanted me to mention, if you are interested, they are doing a world premiere in Los Angeles. There are still some tickets available if you'd like to meet Jeremy Corbel or Bob Lazar at this live event and screening of the documentary. Tickets are on sale at extraordinarybeliefs.com. That's extraordinarybeliefs.com. And you'll get information if tickets are still available right there. Today, though, Tim, is a day of Supernatural News and ParaShare. And I want to remind people, 651-300-4977. Become part of our Voices from Beyond and call in. Tell us your story. We got a lot of chickens out there, Tim. A lot of people send me emails and say, I want to share my story, but I'm chicken. I'm afraid to leave my voicemail. I don't want you guys mocking me or making fun of me. Hey, we hardly ever do that.
No.
So just give us a call, 651-300-4977, and share your stories or continue to email them into me at dave@darknessradio.com. So it is Supernatural News ParaShare Saturday. Tim, where shall we begin this week's search of the news?
Deep, deep in the sea, Dave, where the Little Mermaid lives.
Oh.
Yeah. Where a mysterious sea creature has drawn alien comparisons with its sharp teeth and spiky skin, Dave.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this thing.
You have. And what do you think of it?
I have no interest in the ocean ever again for eternity, Tim. Eternity.
Well, we were just in the ocean in the Bahamas.
Yeah, but it was cordoned off. Where we were, there was no icky, creepy crawlers. There were beautiful dolphins in this giant lagoon, but it was the water was crystal blue. You could see the bottom. You could see that there was nothing there that wanted to eat me.
Well, there were those things that killed Steve Irwin in the water too, you know.
Yeah, but I think they've removed the barbs from the ones that are at the petting places.
Are you sure?
I don't know, but I didn't pet them. You noticed I wasn't in the water with them.
But they weren't too far away. I mean, they were just...
That's okay, Tim. They were, you're not too far away from a serial killer who's on the other side of a bars either, but it doesn't mean that you're in any immediate danger. And unless one of these dolphins is rabid or carrying a switchblade, I felt pretty safe.
Or was it just a false sense of security?
Shut up. Just shut up. All right. So this creature looks very alien in nature. It does. Those rows of terrifying bitey teeth, Tim.
Right. Hannah Mary was strolling along a beach with her mom and pup close behind when she spotted what she first believed was plastic sheeting not plastic actually taking a sheet, but plastic sheeting. After a rough storm hit Canterbury, New Zealand last week, Mary anticipated piles of rubbish would wash ashore. But when she inspected the bizarre-looking object Saturday at a Rakaya Huts beach, she shrieked after she realized it wasn't just another piece of trash. It was the skeleton of an alien-like critter or creature, whichever you would like to pick. When I pulled it out and saw the teeth and barbs, I was convinced it was a rare deep-sea creature, Mary told Fox News. I was so excited because I love the ocean and its inhabitants. That's probably the wrong reaction to have. Mary snapped several photos of the mysterious creature, capturing it at all angles. She then turned to social media in hopes of determining what type of species it was exactly. Can anyone help identify this fish/ray/alien I found washed up at Rakaya Huts? She inquired on Facebook. Dozens of people offered suggestions, from a flying squirrel, fish, to a saw shark. I don't know. When I look at it, I just think creepy.
Yeah, demonic tuna. That's what I think.
Demonic Tuna is a great band name, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
What are we doing, wasting our time in radio when we should be out rocking and or rolling with all of the amazing band titles that we have?
I don't know. Demonic Tuna, though, is a great band name. It just really is.
Trademark it.
All right. I will type here and do it quickly before somebody else does. Alien, definitely alien, one user replied, who was probably sitting in his mom's basement. I don't know. Looks blood creepy, another wrote, in part. With its wings, small fins on its back, 2 quote-unquote legs on either side, and barbs all over that look like teeth. Mary had to partially agree with her followers that it was definitely unusual. That's why she decided to take it to a local taxidermist, probably to stuff and mount it, though he wasn't able to confirm anything. Malcolm Francis, a fisheries scientist and marine ecologist at National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research, or NIWA. It's the other Australian rap group, Dave. Or actually New Zealand.
NIWA?
Yeah, NIWA down in New Zealand.
Straight out of Sydney.
Exactly. Told the New Zealand Herald that the creature is a New Zealand rough skate, also known as a Dipturus nasutus. Huh.
Sure.
Interesting.
The old Dipturus nympsurus.
Yeah, the old Dipturus nasutus. They're called the rough skate because they're very prickly. That's what my nickname was in college. It was quite common in Canterbury. Francis, who has been studying fish for more than 40 years, told the newspaper. It's like flat shark. It has a skeleton made out of cartilage. They spend much of their time on the bottom. I know a few people who do that too. Francis said he was
bottom feeders. Yeah, we've run across a lot of those in our life.
Couple that spend their time on the bottom. Francis said he was able to determine the rough skate was a male based on its legs, quote unquote, which aren't actually legs at all. They look like legs, but they're not, he explained. They're used to help the male hang on to the female when they are mating, Dave.
Woohoo! We're having us a rodeo.
That's right. They're a little spiny, so they can hold on extra sharp, if you know what I mean. Mary said many social media users also believe it's a rough skate. However, she hasn't received any confirmation in person thus far. She's planning to take it to an expert for further testing. She admitted, I'm just not sure what to do with it after.
You mix it up with a little Miracle Whip and put it on a cracker, Tim.
That's right. I'm sure there's a few smart asses out there that can give her some suggestions, however.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there are.
New Zealand rough skates can grow up to nearly 3 feet and typically swim about 700 feet below the ocean surface, according to Tally's Group, a New Zealand-based agribusiness company. The company noted the species is considered a delicacy in the country, so that cracker suggestion isn't far from the truth, Dave.
Everything tastes better on a Ritz.
That's right. God bless Andy Griffith. Known for roaming the deep sea, Mary isn't sure how the creature's body made its way to the surface, but she's glad it did. Every day the ocean's getting more and more destroyed, so it's great people get an opportunity to see one of its creatures that they normally wouldn't get to see, she added. Aw, see, the story does have a good ending after all, Dave. She got to see it in person.
Mm-hmm. Good honor. Yeah. All right, where are we off to next?
Well, this next one is kind of a mixed happy ending as well. Some, including an exorcist, are convinced that Celine Dion's new children's clothing line is demonic. I don't know how that has.
Before you go any further, you have to play the audio for this commercial, and we will discuss. Go ahead.
Okay, let's play the audio.
Is that not the weirdest flippin' commercial you've ever seen for the launch of a child's clothing line ever?
Very much so, yeah.
That is so bizarre. You know, it's one thing. All right. You guys have got to see this. Maybe we'll put a link up to this story so you can see it for yourself. Otherwise, just go look it up. But for this clothing line, she enters in, as you guys are kind of hearing, some of it's just audio of stepping, but she's narrating to a bit. She goes into a nursery, and she's got like this black Medix bag, and she opens it up and starts blowing black and white sprinkles and stardust at these babies. And then they go from pink and blue outfits to these kind of white and black outfits with very basic, stars, stripes, clovers, on their outfits. And it's all about gender neutrality, as you are about to talk about. But it's just weird. But then security is chasing her down because I don't know that you necessarily want to put in to your commercial that you're illegally in the nursery, that you've broken in and that you're changing things, because that's a frightening message to send and confusing to consumers. But she does have a sense of humor about it, and it's going to do exactly what it's doing. It's going to garner a lot of attention from yokels like you and I, who are going to talk about this and draw people's attention to her overpriced children's clothing line.
I'm about to read something that's going to shock me, and that's Celine Dion's age. I always assumed she was older than what I'm about to read.
All right, let me guess, because I do not know. I know she was married to Renee, who is older than her.
Right.
But I want to say that Celine Dion is now 42.
Okay. I'm going to say much, much older than that, but I'll give you her age here in a second.
Okay.
Celine Dion and her new genderless children's clothing line, Celine New, are coming under fire by many, including an exorcist. Here's the age, Dave. The 50-year-old singer.
Yeah, I was close. All right, right in that kind of wheelhouse. You thought she was much older than that.
I thought she was nearing 60.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Who was raised Catholic, recently launched her gender-neutral line through an enticing commercial that depicts Dion running from authorities in a hospital after she magically changed the clothes of the baby in the nursery to a more unisex look from their regular pink and blue outfits, as Dave was mentioning. The new garments include black stars and the words New Order. While Celine New promises or hopes to promote gender equality and the freedom for a child to express themselves through clothes, Monsignor John Esseff, a priest with 65 years experience and an exorcist for over 40 years, says this gender thing is demonic. In an interview with the National Catholic Register, Esseff says, "I don't even know how many genders there's supposed to be now, but there are only 2 that God made." He also believes that such a clothing line is part of a demonic dimension, according to the outlet. The devil is going after children by confusing gender, he said. To say that there is no difference in gender is satanic. In the comment section of the commercial's YouTube link, many echoed his beliefs. Trump fan 21 wrote, and this is in all caps, by the way, "Boycott all these demonic Hollywood hypocrites." Blondie Poo shares...
She's not really Hollywood. She's more Canadian.
Yeah, she's very Canadian, yeah. Blondie Poo shares... "That is one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. They are really getting blatant about revealing their satanic plans for the world. Get right with God now, people."
It's obviously Jay-Z and Beyonce using her as the Canadian contingent to the Illuminati.
Well, of course. I mean, if you can't read between the lines, where can you read?
Yeah.
In a really solid play on words, Baby Quissy, "Gotta love me," writes. What a handle. Sickos, what's with that symbolism? From now on, I will be turning her music Celine Dioff. Oh, How clever.
That's genius. Although, listen, folks, what she's revealing on these outfits is nothing demonic in nature. If you do research, and listen, I've got a lot of kids, so I've gone through this. They were replacing a lot of the colorful mobiles and like Sesame Street characters and things like that with these basic black and white mobiles because they said it was more stimulating to the baby's brain. And it was helping in development and motor skills, and it just helped keep them in a more peaceful place. So I think they're going with this gender neutrality of not having any, like, baseballs and bats and princesses and ponies and things like that. They're trying to keep it just very standard, but something that's still going to kind of stimulate the child. So that's where they're going. I'm no fan of Celine Dion, Tim. She and I had that big falling out in 92, and we're still not talking.
It was pretty sad.
I'm no fan.
Yeah.
And but people are reading way too much into this, but that commercial is flipping weird.
I'll tell you,
flipping weird.
I'm not a fan of her music, but if you've ever seen some of her comedic stuff, she's very funny.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of that. It sounds weird, but I think she's incredibly funny. Like on the Deadpool 2 soundtrack, if you watch the video for the song she did, it's incredibly funny.
Yeah.
And in some of the stuff she's done with Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, very funny.
Well, and even this is funny, right? She's like, I'm not spending a weekend in jail. I'm Celine Dion. Oh, shit. And that's clever. It's a funny little take, and it'll get people talking like it is. But I will say, even though Celine and I are not as close as we once were, Tim,
and it's very sad.
People are over analyzing the demonic nature.
Right. Many, including Blue Gael, reference New Order being written on the clothing line, writing, "Wow, this is sick. Guess the agenda is not so subtle anymore. They really put New Order on a shirt for babies." They are referencing to the conspiracy theory of New World Order, which suggests that a powerful elite with a globalist agenda rules the world. Other clothing includes star shapes. Stars are often associated with conspiracy theories, some that even include the flag of the United States. In reality, pentagrams were a Christian symbol that represented the 5 wounds of Christ. Some believe that when the pentagram is turned upside down, the 2 points represent the horn of the goat of black magic. However, when upright, it points to the heavens. Instead of sending some demonic secret message, it appears that Dion's new line just favors minimalism in both shapes and colors. With their simple designs, the clothes are black and white. If anything, Dion is encouraging our children to be goth. So there you go.
Right. I think people are reading way too much into it. All right. What is our next fun tale of strangeness?
Well, we go from pentagrams and new orders to a white witch bikini model who
sign me up.
Yep, who blinded an exorcist ex with a mold remover that then killed him. This is an interesting story. Raquel Hutchinson, who has been convicted of manslaughter, sprayed her ex with exit mold before he was brutally beaten and dumped by a road. She sounds like a winner, folks. I think she's now single. A white witch blinded her exorcist ex-husband with mold remover before tying him up in a car boot and brutally killing him. Former bikini model Raquel Hutchinson and her then fiancé Paul Wilkinson were this month convicted of her ex-spouse's manslaughter. The 40-year-old Hutchinson sprayed the man with exit mold before he was severely beaten and dumped by the side of a road, this according to a court. She had lured him back to his home on October 20th, 2014, where he was ambushed and beaten, leaving him with horrific injuries. He was then left by the side of an isolated dirt road in New South Wales, Australia, before his body was discovered on October 21st. Well, she wasn't a bad-looking bikini model. I'll give her that. I'm looking at that picture right now. The man who is, sorry, it just kind of stopped me in my tracks. The man who cannot be named for legal reasons had an electrical cord or form of cable tied around his throat during the attack. He was also gagged and bound with duct tape, and he suffered injuries that suggested he had been hit with a low-voltage taser, cattle prod, or similar electrical device, it was said. The man died from asphyxia and craniofacial trauma, with his injuries including a broken nose, black eyes, and multiple cuts. A young boy previously told New South Wales Supreme Court how he heard Hutchinson's ex-husband screaming during the attack. I heard spraying, exit mold and eucalyptus spray, and I heard him saying, my eyes are burning, the child said. He added that he then saw the man lying in the boot, or the trunk. He was lying down. He had a rope around his neck. It was a bulky rope. He was still quiet, the youngster told the court. I saw part of his face. It had a lot of blood on it. The court heard that the man's body was found the following day near an 8.4-meter bloodied cord that was located in undergrowth. Hutchison and Wilkinson, both 40, denied murdering him. And earlier this month, Justice Peter Hamill found them not guilty of murder, but guilty of the lesser charge of manslaughter. He said it was a sustained and brutal assault. The court was told the victim's exact time of death was not known. Hutchison, who was said to consider himself a white witch and to have previously composed spells, had pleaded not guilty due to mental illness. She had claimed her 41-year-old former husband was a child abuser. The former Miss Hawaiian Tropic was convinced her ex-spouse was dangerous, but she thought he was associated with spirits and was an exorcist, demonologist, and ghost hunter, her barrister said. The judge found that her child abuse concerns were real, even if abuse had not taken place, and that the victim had exposed children to his interest in esoteric paranormal activities. On Thursday, Hutchinson appeared at a sentencing hearing where she heard victim impact statements from her ex-husband's relatives. The man's father claimed she had committed the killing out of jealousy. To lose a son for what is, in my opinion, based on jealousy from a loving relationship between the man and his new partner, he said. To accuse the man of cruelty to children is so untrue. Hutchison, who was convicted of manslaughter after a judge-alone trial, has been jailed since her arrest nearly 4 years ago, this according to News.com. She was due to be sentenced at the hearing.
Worst white witch ever. Isn't white witch supposed to be the good witch, Tim?
Yeah.
A good witch or a bad witch? Yeah, murder doesn't fit into that plane of white witchdom.
No.
Yeah, you're more like gray witch. Maybe straight up black witch. I don't know. I don't want to be racist. I don't know. I don't know how that works out.
At the very least, gray witch. Least. Yeah.
All right, where are we off to next?
Well, in this story, Mama Medium Jenny Marie warns of a couple of spirits that could hurt them. On Monday's episode of Mama Medium, Jenny Marie warns a young couple that they could be physically hurt because of negativity lurking in their house. Luckily, though, Jenny says that one spirit in particular is helping defend them against harm. In an exclusive clip for GoodHousekeeping.com, Jenny visits Eric and Amber's home after they tell her that they've been experiencing paranormal activity. As she enters the kitchen, Jenny says that she feels very warm and positive in the home, or in the room rather, and reveals to Eric that his grandfather is there. She then inquires about the number 8, which Eric says relates to the date, January 8th, 2008, that his grandpa passed away. He just validated the day that he passed, so when they validate the day they passed, it means celebrate my life, Jenny said, speaking on behalf of Eric's grandfather. I had a great life, thank you for what you've done for me, is the quote that is put out there. Moments later, Jenny said that Eric's grandfather was showing her all opened cabinets. Eric believes that this is likely because his grandpa had dementia in his last few years and would wake up in the middle of the night and open all the cabinet doors. Eric went on to reveal that one night after his grandfather had passed, he woke up to find all the cabinet doors opened. He initially thought his kids were playing a prank on him, but Jenny thinks it's a sign that the spirit is being lighthearted. One last sign that Eric's grandfather is watching over the two is that he acknowledged that the couple hold on to his cardigan. My energy is in there, and it's super significant, Jenny relayed to the couple for Eric's grandfather. The pair immediately were blown away that she could know so much about the cardigan. But then things take a turn. Jenny declared that Eric's grandpa wasn't just hanging around the house for no reason. In fact, he was staying close to protect them. He just knows that you need his help because there is something going on in your house, Jenny warned as Amber wiped away tears. If something is negative in there, and it's really that negative as I feel it is, it potentially could hurt you physically. She explained that things hadn't gotten physical yet because of the spirit of Eric's grandfather. If there is truly evil spirits in the house, let them keep their distance and stay where they are, Eric said at the end of the clip. But having my grandpa here it's comforting.
That's good. Yeah. When you have that visitation and that sense that you're not alone and somebody's there with you, unless, you're in the bathroom doing horrible things to yourself. That's not when you want to be watched.
No, you want to have some peace and quiet there. I know that much.
Looks like we have one more story before I'll allow you to take a deep breath and a break to relax your tongue before you launch into the myriad of hard word stories that I sent you, Tim. But
right.
Where are we? We're going to wrap up this segment.
Well, I want to absolutely scare the crap out of you, Dave, with this next story. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just a sheer nightmare story for you here, my friend. We all have our little fears and idiosyncrasies about death, but this one will absolutely terrify you if you have any fear about death whatsoever. Especially about being trapped alive in your own dead body.
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dave. According to scientists, they now think your brain can keep working for hours after you die. That's true. One of the big questions of life is what will happen when we die. Will you see a bright white light? Will our life flash before our eyes? Well, according to some new research, the reality is much, much more terrifying. The study has suggested that when our heart stops, our brain will keep functioning for some time after, essentially leaving us trapped in our own bodies. Thank you, Dr. Sam Parnia of the Stony Brook University School of Medicine. You curiosity seeker, you. He's looked into consciousness after death by examining cardiac arrest cases in Europe and the U.S. He says there's anecdotal evidence that cardiac arrest survivors could hear what was happening around them while they were quote-unquote dead before being brought back to life. Dr. Parnia told Live Science they'll describe watching doctors and nurses working. They'll describe having awareness of full conversations, of visual things that were going on that would otherwise not be known to them. Even more terrifying than that, there is some evidence to suggest that people have even heard themselves being pronounced dead by doctors. In the medical field, the time of death is usually calculated when the heart stops. When this happens, our brain function halts almost instantly, Dr. Parnia said. He claims that the brain's cerebral cortex, the thinking part, also slows down and flatlines. But the brain cells can be active hours after the heart stops. Performing CPR on someone whose heart has stopped will send around 50% of what blood it needs to the brain, which Dr. Parnia says is enough to kickstart its functions. He added, if you manage to restart the heart, which is what CPR attempts to do, you gradually start to get the brain functioning again. The longer you're doing CPR, those brain cell death pathways are still happening. They're just happening at a slightly slower rate.
Oh, no.
So
I don't want to be aware in there.
You might be aware in there, Dave.
No, take it away. I don't need to know these things, Tim.
No, you just were made aware.
How dare you educate me? All right. I'm absolutely shaken. All right, Tim, where are we off to next in Supernatural News?
We're off to a haunted school lab in Africa that's been abandoned, Dave, and thank you for all the long names. I appreciate it.
Yes.
A laboratory at Mondwandwe High School in Nkulumane, Bulawayo, has been unused for over 2 years as staff has been.
Isn't that a song from Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine?
Yes, in Miami Sound Machine. Yeah. You've nailed it as usual. Has been unused for over 2 years as staff and pupils are still haunted by the death of a science teacher after he allegedly inhaled poisonous fumes in the facility. Mr. Trust Dubé died in March of 2016, although claims that his death was caused by poisonous gases were not proven. The Chronicle has established that the school laboratory has not been used since the teacher's death. Teachers and pupils complain of itchiness and breathing problems once they get inside the lab, hence the decision to stop using it. A new laboratory has since been built. Sources at the school said the authorities are mooting destroying the laboratory and has remained haunted. Bulawayo acting provincial education director,
Ayo, ayo.
Mrs. Olika Kaira, confirmed the development. She said that they can't speculate on the teacher's death because they didn't get to see the post-mortem report. Everybody thinks if you get into that laboratory, there is something that will affect you. They say they feel some itchiness, but I've never encountered it. I think it's all in the mind. They say they feel some itchiness. They have short breath, she said. What's better than having bad breath? I mean, that could be worse.
So it's haunted because you get itchy?
Itchy and short breath, yes.
Wow. It sounds more like an irritant, an allergen in the air, Tim. I'm no scientist, Tim.
No.
No, I'm no. Although I do have a degree in mixology and I can whip up a hell of a drink.
Oh, good.
I'm no scientist, but I would throw out there to you, if you would, the fact that this is most likely some kind of airborne allergen. Perhaps a black mold issue, white mold, Tim. Could be gray mold. I'm not quite sure. It could be puma urine in the air conditioning vents.
Puma urine?
Mm-hmm. It's a thing. Look it up.
They have a lot of that there in that area of the country, you're saying?
I don't know. It's Africa, right? They're out in the middle of the...
So you're just...
Whale!
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You ever been there?
No,
okay.
No. It's outdoors, Tim.
Right.
All of Africa is very outdoors, and I'm not that guy.
All right. I think there's a psychological mindset that the laboratory will kill us when we get inside to use it. It's well-resourced. It's got all the fittings, but the biggest issue is that it's abandoned. I don't want to say that it's haunted because I have heard that, but as a ministry, I'm appealing to the school to have a change of mindset. She said she has talked to the school authorities not to shun the laboratory, but to no avail. I have spoken to the head, to the teachers, and when you leave, you think that they will have a change of mindset, but alas, nothing is materialized from the talks. As it is, I'm thinking of engaging professional counselors to go and talk to the teachers and pupils because I believe it's psychological, because they say whenever they get into that laboratory, they feel itchy, she said. Mrs. Kyra said a number of stakeholders were engaged to clean up the laboratory since 2016. After that gas leak, a lot of work was done to make sure that all the experts get there. We have a science inspector, Mrs. Chikavanga, who assists us as a fundi in science. All the equipment in the laboratory has been cleaned as per advice by the specialist, she said. Several meetings have been held. We've done a lot as a ministry. We just didn't fold our hands, she went on to say. The chemical that was suspected to have leaked was collected and disposed of appropriately in the presence of EMA, the Environmental Management Agency, and the City Council. Mrs. Kyra said in April of 2016, she wrote a letter to the Permanent Secretary of Primary and Secondary Education notifying her of the development at the school. She said DAT Labs, the National University of Science and Technology, EMA, Bulawayo City Council, and the Department of Public Works have...
John.
I see that. Have been to the school to assist with investigations. They made recommendations that the laboratory be cleaned by professional chemical handlers since the water method had failed. So NEMChem was engaged, and they conducted a test for halogens, which are in your light bulbs, by the way. They then cleaned and decontaminated the laboratory, she said. Mrs. Kyra said her efforts to engage the school had hit a brick wall, not literally, by the way. I asked myself, is that gas still there? I don't think so, because the surrounding areas would be affected. The principal director from head office said we must not make a reference that Kwafela Umuntu, because no one died in that laboratory. There was a gas leak, but there was no immediate death. I think it was after a month or so that the teacher died, and it is alleged that he was suffering from another ailment, but it was a lengthy illness. There you go.
All right. The old itchy ghost syndrome, Tim. Beware of it. It's a thing.
It is. I think a lot of people have fallen from itchy ghost.
Itchy ghost syndrome. Yeah. Ayo, ayo. Where are we off to next?
We head to North China, Dave, in another series of news stories meant to throw me off. An alien skull has been found in North China, and this according to a UFO scholar. An amateur UFO scholar in China is convinced that he is in possession of an alien skull. Lee Giaman, not Lee Jammin, because you all be jamming too, according to Bob Marley.
Lee Jaman. Lee Jaman man, yeah.
Ayo, ayo. Lee Giaman, a science fiction author and researcher, revealed his discovery at a small seminar held in Beijing last month. The skull is brownish and roughly 16 centimeters in diameter. Lee claims it is not human, but rather has two distinct layers. The 55-year-old Lee said the skull belongs to a private collector who had acquired it from a street vendor in Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. A street vendor, Dave, where you get all your good alien skulls. I don't know if you know that or not. The collector was...
You can get some potpourri.
Yeah.
You can go over and get some fresh oranges or alien skulls.
Incense. Always get the good
there's incense. Yeah, there's good.
Get that too.
Yeah. Maybe a wild monkey or two.
Yeah. I need to get me a capuchin monkey. That's what I need. The collector was flipping through my novel when he discovered that the skull looked very much like the one in an illustration, Lee explained. He asked me to confirm its origins. After 4 months of research, Lee produced a 103-page report to support his claim. I conducted a Raman spectroscopy, used an atomic force microscope. I think he's making this stuff
I needed
up.
One of those after college. All the ramen noodles I ate, I needed a Raman spectroscopy to help clear things out, too.
Yeah. Did you use the atomic force microscope to get the rare particles out, too?
Whatever I could.
Yeah. And
bunches up like concrete, Tim. You should always be leery of a food source that comes out in a brick, how it might end up turning out later. I'm just saying.
If it goes in a brick, comes out a brick. I'm just saying. There's not much,
That's a good point.
Yeah. He conducted a Raman spectroscopy, used an atomic force microscope, and compared the skull with alien skulls discovered in other countries, this according to Lee. However, Lee said he's still seeking funding to conduct further tests. DNA analysis alone costs around 100,000 yuan, or $14,398. This according to Lee. Despite facing ridicule on Chinese social media, Lee remains confident in his findings. I welcome questions, he says, but if you want to challenge me, bring your own evidence. Ooh, he's all up in your face. That's the name of that tune right here.
All right, where are we up to next?
A strange earthquake or strange waves rippled around the world, and nobody knows why, Dave. Instruments have picked up the seismic waves of more than 10,000 miles away, but bizarrely, nobody's felt them. A lot like a lot of people's love lives, I suppose. On the morning of November 11th...
So soon after Thanksgiving and all that food and bloat and gas, Tim, probably people are just assuming it's natural effects, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Natural effects.
Natural effects, yes. On the morning of November 11th, just before 9:30 UT, a mysterious rumble rolled around the world. Roll if you want to. Roll around the world. The seismic waves began roughly 15 miles off the shore of, is it Mayotte? A French island sandwiched between Africa and the northern tip of Madagascar. The waves buzzed across Africa, ringing sensors in Zambia, Kenya, and Ethiopia. They traversed vast oceans, humming across Chile, New Zealand, Canada, even Hawaii, nearly 11,000 miles away. The waves didn't just zip by, they rang for more than 20 minutes, and yet it seems no human felt them. They were in a food coma, probably.
I'm still saying, yeah.
Yeah. Only one person noticed the odd signal on the U.S. Geological Survey's real-time seismogram displays. An earthquake enthusiast who uses the handle at Matarikpax. Matarikpax? Really? No, Matarikpax. That's a weird handle. Saw the curious zigzags and posted images of them to Twitter. That small action kicked off another ripple of sorts as researchers around the world attempted to suss out the source of the waves. Was it a meteor strike, a submarine volcano eruption, an ancient sea monster rising from the deep? I don't think I've seen anything like it, said Goran Ekstrom, a seismologist.
It's just me, everybody, Snally. I was out for a swim. Why is everybody so up in arms?
Because you caused waves that went 11,000 miles around the world.
Well, you got a lot of sweat under your arms when you're flying in the sky all the time, Tim. You got to get in that ocean. You got to use that salty brine in order to flush you out, clean out all your pores. It's the only way to stay clean, I'm telling you. So you got to get in the water, do a little splashing. Otherwise, it's just like an egg being dunked. It ain't going to be cooked if you just dunk it. You got to get it in there. You got to agitate it so that everything is handled. And that's all I was doing.
Could you not irritate the neighbors next time?
Sorry. I guess I will take my business elsewhere.
They just need a little...
Offend Snally.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just speaking up for the people in Chile.
Speaking up for the people in Chile.
They're a quiet people.
Mm-hmm. They are.
They got enough problems, I guess. I don't know. I don't think I've seen anything like it, said Goran Ekstrom, a seismologist at Columbia University who specializes in unusual earthquakes. I guess Goran Ekstrom has a problem with Snally.
I feel the earth move under me feet. I feel the sky come tumbling down.
It doesn't mean that in the end the cause of them is that exotic. Did you hear that, Snally? You're not that exotic. Just saying.
Got nothing.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
You say that before the bikini wax, Tim. After that, I'm very exotic.
How does that wax happen? With a natural wax or a weed whacker?
Oh, my God.
Wondering.
I want to hear about him whacking his weed, Tim.
You know. Yet many features of the waves are remarkably weird, from their surprisingly monotone low-frequency ring to their global spread. Is there a global spread there, Snally?
Now you're just being hurtful.
I'm sorry.
Don't try to stir the pot, Tim.
I'm sorry. And researchers are still chasing down the geological conundrum. In a normal earthquake, the built-up tensions in the Earth's crust...
Oh, geological conundrum. That was the name of me rap band in the 70s.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't even realize that Snally was a rapper, Tim.
I had no clue either.
Yeah, very weird.
Yeah, it's just you and Africa Bambaataa, evidently.
Mm-hmm.
In a normal earthquake, the built-up tensions in Earth's crust release a jolt in mere seconds. This sends out a series of waves known as a wave train that radiates from the point of the rupture.
Come on, ride the train. The wave train.
Explains Stephen Hicks, a seismologist at the University of Southampton.
Today's episode is brought to you by K-Tel. Get all of Snally's greatest hits right now on sale. Only $9.99.
That's a little high. I would bring that down a bit. I'm just saying it might stimulate album sales.
Oof.
The fastest traveling signals are primary waves or P waves. Were there any P waves, Snally, when you were out there?
Let me tell you a thing or two about that. Mm-hmm. But we'll do it off air, Tim. Don't worry about it. I'm just saying.
Is the ocean...
When you got to go, you got to go.
Is the ocean that warm that it stimulates one or two P waves? Because I'm just saying, yeah. I don't blame you. It happens to everybody. Everybody P waves every once in a while.
Gets all hot and tingly with that salty water. What can I say?
Yeah. People say they don't do it, but they do. It's the ocean. The fastest traveling signals are primary waves or P waves, which are compression waves that move in bunches, like what happens to an extended slinky that gets suddenly pushed at one end. You ever had your slinky pushed in there, Snally?
I don't think it's any of your damn business.
All right, I'm sorry. Maybe that's a little too far. Next come the secondary waves, or S waves. Did you do any S waves in the ocean there, Snally?
You're just looking for trouble.
I know. Which have more of a side-to-side motion. Both of these are so-called body waves that are relatively high frequencies. Hicks says a sort of ping rather than a rumbling. And there's a rumbling in your tummy. Finally, chugging along at the end comes slow, long period surface waves, which are similar to the strange signals that rolled out from Mayotte. For intense earthquakes, these surface waves can zip around the planet multiple times, ringing Earth like a bell. Hicks says, boy, you really did it up there, Snally. However, there was no big earthquake kicking off the recent slow waves. Adding to the weirdness, Mayott's mystery waves are what scientists call monochromatic. Most earthquakes send out waves with a slew of different frequencies, but Mayott's signal was a clean zigzag dominated by one type of wave that took a steady 17 seconds to repeat.
Nothing to worry about, folks. Just Snally having a bath. A little hot tubbing.
It's like you have colored glasses and are just seeing red or something, said Anthony Lomax, an independent seismology consultant. Based on the scientific sleuthing done so far, the tremors seem to be related to a seismic swarm that gripped Mayotte since last May. Hundreds of quakes have rattled the small nation during that time. A lot of baths there. Most radiating from around 31 miles offshore, just east of the odd ringing. The majority were minor trembles, but the largest clocked in at a magnitude of 5.8 on May 15th. Had a little hot tub action going there, didn't you?
What can I say? It's all the French fried onions on top of my green bean salad. It gets things bubbling.
I guess. The mightiest in the island's recorded history, that 5.8, yet the frequency of these shakes has declined in recent months, and no traditional quakes rumbled there when the mystery waves began on November 11th. The French Geological Survey is closely monitoring the recent shaking, and it suggests a new center of volcanic activity may be developing off the coast. Mayotte has formed from volcanism, but its geological beasts haven't erupted in over 4,000 years. Sounds like a personal problem. Instead, the analysis suggests that this new activity may point to magmatic movement offshore, miles from the coast, under thousands of feet of water. Though this is good news for the island inhabitants, it's irksome for geologists since it's an area that hasn't been studied in detail. The location of the swarm on the edge of the geological maps we have, says Nicholas Talifer, head of the Seismic and Volcanic Risk Unit at the center, says there are a lot of things we don't know. And as for the November 11th mystery wave, he says, it's something quite new in the signals at our station. Since mid-July, GPS stations on the island have tracked it sliding more than 2.4 inches to the east and 1.2 inches to the south. And according to data from Institut National de l'Information Géographique et Forestière,
your grasp of French is amazing.
I'm trying to do it American. I'm not trying to put the accent in it. Using these measurements, Pierre Briol of École Normale Supérieure in
Oh my God,
Paris.
I can hear the French emailing me right now. Hello, Monsieur Dave. Please tell him not to even attempt to speak our language again. He is an offense to our ears.
I want to do it in a Texas.
Sincerely, Jean-Paul.
I want to do it in a Texas accent.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Just to butcher it even more. Estimated that a magma body that measures about a third of a cubic mile is squishing its way through the subsurface near Mayotte. The early period of rumbling was also overprinted with what seemed to be the P-, Dave, and S- waves of tiny tremors, explains Lomax, who spotted the faint pings by filtering out the low-frequency signals. Such pings are commonly associated with magma moving and fracturing rock as it squirts through the crust. But even those signals were a
Why
little
are we
strange.
still such 8-year-old boys? No matter what, we're always 8-year-old boys.
It squirts through the crust. If it does that, you better clean it up. Said Helen Robinson, a PhD candidate in applied volcanology at the University of Glasgow. They're too nice. They're too perfect to be nature, she jokes, though quickly adds that an industrial source is impossible since no wind farms or drilling are taking place in the deep waters off their shores. Ekstrom thinks the events on the morning of November 11th actually did begin with an earthquake of sorts, equivalent to a magnitude 5 trembler. It passed by largely unnoticed, he suggests, because it's what's known as a slow earthquake. These quakes are quieter than their speedy cousins since they came from a gradual release of stress that can stretch over minutes, hours, or even days. The same deformation happens, but it doesn't happen as a jolt, Ekstrom says. These slow types of quakes are often associated with volcanic activity. So there you go.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Giant seismic waves, but again, no clue what really happened. Well, you know, it was Snally taking a bath. All right. Are we at our final story for this week?
I believe I have one more here about a glowing green fireball.
Yes, let's hear it.
A mysterious glowing green fireball is seen above Russia's scientific city. This, according to the Research Institute. A mystery green fireball is seen glowing above Russia's high-tech scientific city, and it has puzzled scientists. The bright flash and streaking tail was spotted by stunned motorists close to the research town of, oh my God, that's a huge name, Akademgorodok. I'm sure that's how they pronounce it. On the edge.
Akademgorodok.
All right. On the edge of the regional capital of Novosibirsk in southern Siberia. The research institutes in the area have been dubbed Vladimir Putin's secret weapon. The images were caught on dash cams in the early morning darkness on Tuesday and have prompted a range of explanations. The state-run Russia Today described it as a meteor, but acknowledged that astronomers were somewhat bewildered by the sight. The pictures have sparked rumors that Russia was testing extreme advanced weapons, while others suggested it was a UFO. Ilya Orlov, deputy director of the big Novosibirsk planetarium, hailed the beautiful phenomenon, but he could... Phenomenon? Phenomenon? But he could not certain what caused it. Most likely this is a flash of bolide, but that is the fall of a bright meteor with a flash, he said, saying it would be unusual. It is all the more surprising because there are no active meteor showers now. It can be either the tail of a Leonid meteor shower or a lone meteor. We need to find out. A bolide is a very bright meteor that explodes in the Earth's atmosphere. No traces of space rock were found on the snowy ground, it was reported. There were no reported rocket launches or missile tests when the fireball appeared early on Tuesday, which sometimes account for UFO sightings in Siberia. The spooky incident was close to Akademgorodok, set up by the Kremlin in 1957 as a base to hothouse Soviet scientists in Siberia, far from the prying eyes of the West. It is now home to many of Russia's leading researchers and academics specializing in all branches of sciences, including military and space developments. It houses dozens of scientific institutes and has been called the cradle of the Kremlin's high-tech innovation. The site is just 6 miles away from Koltsovo, home of a secretive repository of the planet's most deadly diseases and viruses. The Russian State Research Center of Virology and Biotechnology, called Vector, is a highly guarded institute which in Soviet times was at the forefront of deadly weapons programs. In recent years, Vector has been involved in efforts to find cures and antidotes to killers such as the bubonic plague, anthrax, hepatitis B, HIV, and cancer. The research center holds one of the last 2 samples of smallpox in the world, with the United States retaining the other.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's your turn to shine. Remember, if you'd like to be a caller, give us a buzz, 651-300-4977. Leave your paranormal encounters on our Voices from Beyond voicemail. That's 651-300-4977, or send me your stories. And we are in need of more of your stories for Theater of the Mind. So if you've got a great paranormal encounter and you can write it as a narrative form so we can read it, document it, put in some sound effects, and make it fleshed out and have some fun, great. Email them to me at dave@darknessradio.com. We'll be back with your stories next on Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
Welcome back to the show. Listen, guys, it's Saturday. If you are in and or around the Madison, Wisconsin area, come on out and see me. I am here all day today and tomorrow at Wizard World. We are going to be doing talks on the paranormal. Plus, I'll be hosting some panel discussions with cast members from Constantine, Supernatural. I'm going to have a very Brady conversation with Barry Williams, Greg Brady, the original Johnny Bravo himself, and I get to introduce the captain, Tim.
The skipper, Alan Hayden?
No. He died a long time ago, Tim. There's only one real captain, Tim, and I'm going to be talking to him.
Captain Crunch.
No, not that captain, and not the one with Tennille either, Tim. They split up long ago. Oh. No, Tim. Solo is great and Sparrow is fun, but when it comes to getting a dirty job done, I like my Kirk. That's the captain for me, my friend. And I'm going to be introducing William the Shatner, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
On the main stage. He's going to know I exist. Aside from the,
for a couple seconds, yeah.
Aside from all the restraining orders he's had to file against me, he'll see me now, Tim. He won't forget me. He won't forget me. Anyway, tickets are on sale at wizardworld.com. Come on out. See me at the Madison Con. It'll be fun, and I'd love for you guys to be a part of it. Listen, we're trying to help out my son, who is a Navy vet and Minnesota firefighter, is raising money and awareness for Special Olympics and doing the polar plunge. So how can you help? Real simple. Go to darknessradio.com, scroll down the page. To the bottom, you'll see the banner. Just click on it and make a donation. Any size donation will work. But Dave, it says 20, 30, 40, 50. Yeah, but the last box says other. You can put in any size donation you're comfortable with. Whether it's $1 or a bajillion, just make a donation and help out, because every dollar we raise goes to help Special Olympians for uniforms, training, and travel expenses. So help the Special Olympians have a chance to be a part of something remarkable and make memories that will last a lifetime. And you can do it again just by going to darknessradio.com, scroll down the page, and you'll see the Polar Plunge banner there. Just click on it and you can make a donation. And we'd like to hit that $5,000 mark this year if it's at all possible. And we can do it. We can get there with your help. All right, Tim, we've got some stories to read. Are you ready?
Ready.
This one's called a ParaNotShare.
Oh,
I don't know what that means. He said, I've never really typed up a story before. That's how he starts this one. Nice disclaimer up front. But after hearing your fox screaming story, it reminded me of something that happened to me and a friend. It's not like your story per se, but it's something we dealt with. Here you go. The 90s, the greatest decade ever. That's debatable. Resident Evil was a video game that came out, and it was a very popular game. So when Resident Evil 2 came out, a buddy and myself could not wait to sit and play. During the nighttime hours with the lights off to get that spook jump feel when a zombie or whatever jumps out at you, each of us taking turns with the controller, controlling the madness. As we're playing and immersing ourselves, all of a sudden the TV would shut off. Where's the remote? Hell if I know. Get up, turn the TV back on. So the remote is nowhere to be found. We're the only ones in the apartment. We start playing again, and after 10 minutes, the TV turns off. Without thinking, I get up, turn the TV back on, and gaming continues. However, again, the TV turns off. Okay, now this is messed up. Unplug things, plug them back in, try again. TV turns off. After much thinking, we're dealing with a ghost. We discover something. When you are young, you do dumb things. We smoked in our apartment. And when you're young, you do dumb things. Before that night, we found an ashtray. You know, the ones used at gas stations, the big, tall, shiny stands. Well, the remote was under that ashtray. So every time a cigarette would get put out, it'd hit the power button on the remote. Yes, the 90s was the best decade ever, Dave. Sincerely, Chad. How dare you, Chad? How dare you? You and your dumb ghost remote cigarette ashtray. 90 kid. The 80s, that's where life really began, sir. You and your quirky grunge look and your flannelly shirts and your no hairdos, your angry yells.
Angry yells?
Yeah, you've heard Nirvana music. You've heard music of the 90s, Tim. There's a lot of guttural, angry music, Tim.
I like Nirvana.
Not like, ain't nothing gonna break my stride. Ain't nothing gonna blow me down. Oh, no.
That's your representation?
That's happy, upbeat music of the 80s, Tim.
It sounds like a Hobbit.
Are you mocking my
that
classically
song,
trained singing voice, Tim?
That song sounds like someone's twisting a Hobbit's nuts.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you been around many hobbits with nuts?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
How often has this happened, and why have I not been invited?
You've never been to Hobbiton before?
No, I have not.
Okay. Just saying.
Here's a good story. This one jumps right out at me. I'm not going to even read the headline, Tim. I'm just going to go straight to it. Hi, Dave and Tim. I've been listening to your show for about 5 years and have been hesitant to send in my ghost story, as it's quite unusual, yet comical. But I'm ready, so here goes. So, back in the late 80s, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend.
Now, that would be the Club Nouveau version if you're talking in the 80s.
Yeah, but that's the 80s, Tim. It's still, that was the best version.
It's not the Benny King version, which was the best version. That was...
You know, Benny King made a resurgence win, Tim. Oh, the 80s. That's right. Stand by me. Just saying. So back in the late 80s, I was in high school in Connecticut, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
So many letters. I want to try to say them all. Connecticut. I just moved from a house that was supposedly haunted and was living in a brand new condo with my folks. One night, a bunch of us were hanging out in the cemetery, as we often did. When we were leaving, I told my boyfriend that I'd wanted one of those metal candle holders they put on the graves. I know. Bad idea, but I was wild. I was young. I was a little jerk, and I wanted one. So, of course, he takes one off the grave and puts it in my car.
Bad idea.
Get into my car, baby. A few nights later, I was all alone in my room. I think we're alone now. The beating of my heart is the only sound. See, 80s. There's a narrative for every one of these lines.
You sang it with a 90s inflection.
No, I just sang it with the power of my rock and roll voice, Tim.
No.
When suddenly she smelled a rotten egg. I looked around thinking my mom's cat is in my room and has a bad case of gas. No cat. I sit down on my bed and I think I hear something, so I turn down whatever heavy metal I was listening to. I smell that horrible smell, but this time I hear a distinct fart sound. At first, I kind of laughed a little and say, okay, what the hell is going on? A few more times I hear it and I smell it, and I start to get scared. I start to pray, which I'd only done once prior. You got to pray just to make it today, Tim. I suddenly feel that maybe it is the spirit whose grave I had disturbed. And I say, I'm sorry. If you were the person whose grave this candle was on, I'll return it. I'm sorry. In the name of Jesus, please forgive me. I put the candle on my front porch and returned it the next day. I said a prayer and I said I was very sorry for my disrespect. My boyfriend thought I was crazy, but I've not had any experiences ever again. That is my farting ghost story, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for all you guys do. I love you guys. I love the show. Have a great holiday season. Your devoted listener, Callie, the ghost farterer. I added that last part.
I was going to say
she didn't give herself. She didn't dock herself that official title.
Yeah.
I bequeathed it upon her.
You'd be what?
Bequeathed it. I gave it upon her. I laid it upon her, Tim.
Okay.
All right, Tim. This next one starts off very strange. Dear Tave and Dim. I'll give an A for originality. Nobody's approached us that way before. This is Jonathan writing to you from Canada. Tim, that's pronounced Canada. Geez, show some respect, man. That's how it says. I'm reading it exactly as it is. He puts C-A-N-A, capital D-U-H, Canada. Anyway, my story begins in the 1960s. Also an amazing time, Tim. That may echo as the second greatest decade in the decades of history. 60s and 80s. Darkness Radio was just hitting the airwaves. and a bungalow in a small town near Toronto was being built by a guy named Old Man Johnson. Presumably, nobody called him that back then, but we did when my family bought the house in the year 2000. Year 2000! Old Man Johnson moved into an apartment down the street from our house, and every day his middle-aged daughter would push his wheelchair to our driveway so they could sit there and reminisce about the old place. This didn't bother us. It was kind of sad, actually. We weren't too sure why he had to sell the house he had built, but clearly he loved the place. Flash forward to the year 2003. Year 2003! Darkness Radio celebrates 70 years on the air. Yeah, I realize the math doesn't check out for any of this, but take it easy, Tim. We're basically best friends. You watched my Instagram story once. That's right. Move over, Dave. But I digress. So 2003, no longer does Old Man Johnson visit the driveway. But we don't really notice until we start hearing things at night when home alone. No big deal. Probably just the cat or dog. But then, one night, my mom wakes up. It's dark, but from the dim stove light in the kitchen, traveling up the hallway, she sees an apparition of a man standing in the bedroom doorway. She questions my dad. Are you awake? It's just standing there. But then she finds that he's sleeping right beside her. She quickly turns on the light, and there's nobody in the doorway. We all start seeing the shadow person, though none of the sightings are quite as vivid as my mom's. However, I did see the shadow of an old man being cast onto the basement floor, moving further into the basement, clear as could be. Dave? But there was nobody down there. Friends and family would see and hear stuff while visiting. The cat would meow at nothing. The dog would bark and growl from the top of the stairs. My dad saw the ghost of a little boy early one morning in the driveway. Old Man Johnson as a kid? Who knows? But all this went on for years. We looked it up one day out of curiosity and discovered that Old Man Johnson had passed away in 2003. I'm happy to report that his presence in the house seems to be no more. Happy not because he was a disturbance, but because it probably means he's moved on. Although my 5-year-old nephew claims that there are 4 nice ghosts in the basement and 1 angry one. Let's ignore that one, though. My bedroom is down there. This is from Jonathan in Canada. That's Jonathan with an H. Please don't read my name on the air. I couldn't risk people in my personal life knowing I saw a ghost once. I could lose my job at the grocery store. You're reading this. You're reading all of this, aren't you? Oh, well, screw that job anyhow. Just give out Tim's home address so I can mail him some stuff that I bought on Adam and Eve, and we can call it even. You guys suck. Everything you do is horrible. With love, your number 1 greatest fan of all time, Jonathan. P.S. Here's a joke from the British comedian Jimmy Carr. I feel you guys will enjoy. I just wrote a book on poltergeists. It's flying off the shelves.
Oh, God.
Jonathan, thank you. That was truly fun to read, and I appreciate it. You get it. You get me. You love me. You really love me.
And we love your country of Canada.
Oh, Canada. Isn't that how it's said now, Tim? We have a lot of Canadian listeners.
We do.
Down by the Texas border. We love you, Canada.
Yeah. Great weather.
Dear Dave and Tim, my name is Aaron, and my wife and I have been listening to your show for about 6 months. I don't know why suddenly I'm channeling Bill Curtis, Tim.
I don't know either.
I have to say that you've been the best entertainment in my week. We live in the UP of Michigan. I would have thought originally, Tim, that was the up of Michigan and thought they were completely nuts, but now I understand UP stands for Upper Peninsula.
Either that or they're floating away in a balloon.
Could be. Yeah. Thank you for being so open about how you go through tough times in your life. My sister and I were pretty close when we were younger, but the last 8 years or so, we had a hard time with each other, but still cared for each other. We lived together in a house in Royal Oak, Michigan. About a year there was a room under the stairs in the basement. The small room had the most uncomfortable feeling. There was a crucifix with Jesus on it at the back of the room. that you saw as you opened the door. There's nothing in it when we moved in but shelves and this eerie feeling like someone was locked in there for months. Her and I both experienced weird feelings, even walking by the closet under the stairs. To better understand the layout of this room is on one side of the basement and the laundry room was on the other side, the door for the closet under the stairs. We both had the same feelings, but did not know why. One night I had a nightmare that was so real it scared me to death, Tim, to death.
Yikes.
I was laying in bed. And all of a sudden, a little boy jumped up on my chest and started choking me, and I could not breathe. It was the scariest dream I'd ever had in my life. I woke up at the same spot as I was dreaming. I was in bed and ran upstairs and slept in the living room for the rest of the time that we lived in that house, barely going downstairs into my basement bedroom. You could not pay me to go back into that basement where that closet was. I would have loved to listen to this show with her because her and I both believe in the paranormal, aliens, and the deep state. We also lived in an apartment together with my mother and later my stepfather for years with the phone number ending in 4977. I don't know what that has to do with the rest of the story, Tim.
I have one other question, too.
That was crazy when I heard that on your show. Thank you for what you do and you guys do and are being open with depression and dark times. I have other stories, too, about magnetic waves and lights in the sky in tracks of Sasquatch, but that's for another time. Thank you, guys, and have a good night. That comes from Aaron.
Well, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. What was your other question, Tim?
Well, in the story, there's a crucifix with Jesus on it.
Yes.
Have you ever seen a crucifix with someone else on it? Like, say,
yes.
Ringo Starr.
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh. I've never seen a crucifix with anybody else on it.
Yeah.
But I'd be alarmed if I did.
Yeah. That'd be weird. Listening to your most recent show, and you had a brief mention of hearing a fox make love outside your home.
Oh, yeah. Baby.
The screams gave me chills in the audio because it reminded me of the time my cousin heard a woman being killed on an island he just moved to. Last summer, my cousin and his family purchased a home on Camano Island on the west coast of Washington State. He was watching while his parents were in California packing and getting things in order for the big move. He sent me a message around 10 that evening asking me what I thought was making the noise he kept hearing way off in the woods. I gave it a listen, and it sounded like someone was letting out blood-curdling screams. But being an avid Bigfoot enthusiast, outdoorsy type, I chalked it up to wildlife, maybe a cougar or a fox. I even jokingly said it was just a Bigfoot. We had a good laugh, and he said it's been going on for about an hour and 15 minutes or so. And the conversation eventually turned away from the original subject. About 3 days later, he messaged me again saying a local sheriff was asking people on that side of the island if they'd heard anything weird or out of the normal. He promptly showed them the audio recording he had shared with me, and they asked if they could keep it. Well, after some more questioning, my cousin was told that on his side of the island, a woman was found decapitated next to a bunker. They had a suspect and were after him, but he was assumed to have left the state. I would be more than willing to send you the copy of the audio per your request. I just feel that since it is an actual person losing their life, it is audio that may be a little too much. Just thought it was a story you might be interested in hearing. This did make the local news. You can find info on the case simply by looking the island and the murder up. Have a lovely day. And that comes from Ted. No, Ted, I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Thank you for sharing. But yeah, that just unnerves me. I don't want to hear people dying. Oof. But, yeah, right. I see, here's the deal. I feel foolish in a sense for having called the cops because of what I heard, but I will always call the cops, Tim, because I would rather take the chance that I'm wrong and that it is an animal in the midst of passion.
Right. Yeah.
A little loving, touching, and squeezing.
Right.
Than to have made the mistake and not called and found out that somebody was brutally murdered. That's horrible. So that's what we're going to do, Tim. That's what we're going to do.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this week, man. We're done with Supernatural News and ParaShare. But tomorrow we're back with a very special episode. Bob Lazar, Area 51, and Flying Saucers. That's what we're going to be talking about. Jeremy Corbell, our guest. We'll talk about this. His new documentary is breaking worldwide, I think, on the 4th of December. He has a special worldwide premiere in California on Monday the 3rd. And if there are still tickets available, you can attend. Buy your tickets now. Get a chance to meet Jeremy and Bob Lazar in person. ExtraordinaryBeliefs.com. ExtraordinaryBeliefs.com is the website to check out. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. We'll see you back here tomorrow with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is Beyond the Darkness.